This year, we decided to travel to Nepal and do the iconic Everest Base Camp trek that has been on my bucket list for many years. We started our journey in the city of Kathmandu, where we got ready before heading to the Himalayas. Kathmandu is very chaotic, with a lot of traffic and many people. If you're not used to Asian cities, it can get very overwhelming to walk in the center. To escape the noise of the city, we decided to visit the Monkey Temple. This holy shrine is located above the Kathmandu Valley, and it is one of the most ancient religious sites in Nepal. As you can guess from the name, there are many monkeys everywhere that have been living here for generations. On the hillside, it's possible to visit the beautiful Buddhist temples, from where you can see Kathmandu from above. If you are spending some time in Kathmandu, I also recommend visiting the Tibetan Buddha Stupa located in the northeast of the capital. It is one of the largest stupas in the world, and it is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. When you enter, it looks like a village with dozens of pilgrims, tourists, souvenir shops and cafes. Even though I could still hear the city's noise, it was impossible not to feel at peace in this sacred place. Today we are finally heading to the Himalayas, and I couldn't be more excited. Little did I know what the next hours would look like. A bumpy car ride, 9 hours long from Kathmandu to Mantali. Usually it takes 5 hours to get there, but after the recent floods, all the roads outside of the capital have been damaged. In the evening, we finally arrived in Mantali, and before heading to sleep, we walked around the village to stretch our legs after the long journey. Today the alarm is at 6 a.m. and we are heading to the airport to take the scary flight to Lukla. Even though Mantali is just a small town, the airport is one of the busiest in Nepal because it's the only place for where you can fly to Lukla. Very often flights get cancelled due to the bad weather, so tourists can get stuck here for a few days. Luckily it wasn't our case. Even though the flight was 4 hours late, we finally managed to board the plane. This was probably the scariest and most exciting flight of my life. Didn't help to know that we were landing in the most dangerous airport in the world, on a 500-meter long runway located on the edge of a mountain. My heart rate was 142 beats when landing, but finally we made it to Lukla.
Alexia, how is the Lukla airport?
Great! I'm like still shaking, I swear.
Before we start the hike, let me present you our crew. We will share this 14-day adventure with our smiley porter Patra, who will help us carry our bags during this journey. Patra lives in a small village here in the Everest region. Last but not least, our amazing guide Tenpa, whose sister we met 1 year before in northern India in a small Tibetan shop, and she recommended doing this adventure with him. On our first day, we are trekking from Lukla to Phakting. The hike is very easy, 6 kilometers and 3 hours long, mostly downhill. We started at an elevation of 2,800 meters and we are descending at 2,600. During the trek, we crossed beautiful Tibetan bridges, We saw many Buddhist temples, waterfalls, and green mountains. Once arrived in Phak Ding, we wandered around the village. We felt so spoiled when we settled in the beautiful tea house. We had clean sheets, a private toilet, chargers, and even a private hot shower. But that was an exception. In fact, it was the best tea house during the trek. We ended the day with a ginger lemon tea and some Tibetan food that Tempa recommended us. The next morning we had breakfast at 7 a.m. and right after we started our ascent to the famous village of Namche Bazar. On the way to Namche, we started to see the first 7,000er peaks, and I felt really lucky to be there. This was probably one of the longest hiking days we had on the way to the base camp. Even though there was a lot of elevation gain, the motivation was high. We felt very energetic throughout the entire hike, and we managed without any issues to get fast to the village. We were even 1.5 hours ahead of the expected time, which meant that the training I had during the summer had paid off. This was also the busiest days of the trek, with many tourists on the way, but it didn't bother us at all. We were still enjoying the hike and the beautiful views. After 5 hours, we arrived to Namche Bazar, located at 3,440 meters. The village with 1,600 inhabitants is the historical capital and the administrative center for the Khumbu region. You can find everything here: many trekking shops, souvenirs, restaurants, grocery shops, tea houses, bakeries and cafes, even a yakbak coffee. After the long day, we relaxed in the tea house with a ginger lemon tea.
How was the hike?
Yes, going.
Today's alarm is at 5 a.m. and we are going to watch the sunrise above Namche's village. The early wake up was absolutely worth it. We had an incredible weather and we were able to see all the surrounding mountains. We could see the top of Amadablam, my favorite mountain, also named the Matterhorn of Nepal because of its resemblance. Here are other mountains like Lhotse and you can see the point of Everest. Before continuing the hike, we had an acclimatization day to adjust to the altitude before climbing higher. We had a short but intense hike to the Everest View Hotel and then we went back to Namche. In the evening, we had a briefing with Tempa where she explained the next day's plan.
We go straight to Timbuche, yeah? And we spend 2 nights here.
Today we are hiking from Namche to Tengboche, another lucky day with sunshine and a clear sky. The hike covers about 9 kilometers and takes you through forests filled with rhododendron trees. It offers a chance to experience the rich culture of the Sherpa people who have lived in the region for centuries. Sherpas are the real protagonists of the trek. You can see them carrying heavy loads up to 25 kilos and more. If you want to do the EBC trek, you don't need to hire a porter, but it's recommended if you want to support the Sherpa community.
Maybe base camp? Maybe up to Gorakshep maybe?
To recharge, we took a few breaks during the trek. Even though the hike felt quite long, it was beautiful and we enjoyed the views and the cheerful atmosphere. The last part of the trek was the most challenging, with a steep incline all the way to the village, but I listened to some music and we made it ahead of time. Today's elevation gain was 860 meters and the hike was 4 hours long. We still didn't feel any effects of the altitude. As we arrived, we explored the area that is surrounded by prayer wheels and Buddhist murals. Tengboche is different from any other village because of its beautiful monastery located at 3,860 meters. The monastery is a leading Buddhist center in the Khumbu region with monks who bless the pilgrims, mountaineers and travelers during their passage. After exploring the monastery, we went to a bakery and enjoyed a delicious apple pie with cappuccino.
It's super good.
Is this the fork you used or this one?
I think the one on the table.
This the one you used?
Yeah.
In Tengboche, I started to feel cold at night and the tea house where we were staying was quite adventurous, with no showers and only a few toilets that we had to share with many other travelers. The next day we woke up very early. Even though I didn't get much sleep at night, I was excited to continue the hike on another beautiful sunny day. The trail to Tengboche is 10 kilometers long with 720 meters of elevation gain.
Yes? Very nice.
After the other days, I didn't think the hike could get any better, but I was wrong. As we were ascending, we met fewer tourists along the way, and we felt just us, surrounded by spectacular mountains.
Hello.
The Amadablam and Lhotse peaks were getting closer with every step we were taking, and the hike almost felt like a spiritual experience. Four hours later, we arrived in Tengboche, located at 4,400 meters of elevation. The tea house where we were staying was one of my favorite, with the best food and with a cozy vibe. We even had a private toilet and we enjoyed a warm shower after the hike, which was a luxury. The lady who owned the accommodation was also extremely friendly. The best part was having a French bakery right in front of the tea house, where we watched a climbing movie with all the other trekkers. The next day we woke up later than usual and we had an acclimatization day. Since I started to have a bit of headache due to the altitude, we decided to take it easy. After drinking lots of water and getting some rest, I started to feel better and I decided to go on a solo hike above Tengboche. This was my favorite day during the trek. I fell in love with the village and its nature. I was surrounded by the most iconic peaks, such as Amadablam, Makalu, and Lhotse. I have a feeling I will come back in this village in the future, use Dingboche as a base, and do some day hikes from there. Sadly, the next day it was time to leave Dingboche and continue the hike, even though I could have stayed here a lot longer. Today's plan is to hike to Lobuche, which is 8.5 kilometers distant, with 670 meters of elevation gain. For the first time since we started the hike, I was struggling with my breathing while walking uphill, and in general, I started to feel a bit tired. On the way to Lobuche, we took a ginger lemon tea break and we enjoyed the stunning view.
I think so, yeah. After this, it's just uphill and then we're there.
We're ready.
Yeah.
Three hours later, we made it to Lobuche, a small settlement with a few tea houses located at 4,900 meters of elevation. It felt unreal to think that the next day it was already time to reach the iconic Everest Base Camp. Before going to sleep, we enjoyed the sunset setting behind the mountains. Today's alarm is at 5 in the morning and we have a long day ahead of us. We have to hike first to the Everest Base Camp and then walk back to Gorakshep, where we are gonna stay overnight. In total, the hike is 11 kilometers long with 540 meters of elevation gain. Once we surpassed the 5,000 meters, the landscape completely changed, and we were surrounded by dramatic mountains, giant rocks, and glaciers.
A lot of snow.
No.
Even though the views felt surreal, I wasn't fully appreciating what I had in front, because I felt extremely weak and cold, and I was starting to feel the first symptoms of altitude sickness.
What? Even my camera is frozen.
But I tried my best, and we continued the hike at a steady pace. And there we were. After what felt like forever, we finally made it to the Everest Base Camp, located at 5,364 meters.
Okay, then we can use mine.
The world's highest mountain was looking above us, together with other 8,000 peaks.
Wow.
There was no better feeling than eating my sneakers and taking in the views at the same time. That's when I realized we made it. Already being at 5,000 meters feels like an inhospitable place. I can't even imagine how tough must be trying to climb the Everest with almost no oxygen and strong winds.
Imagine the speed of the winds up there. It's almost perfectly like it was meant to be.
There were no tents at the base camp because we were there in October and the main climbing season is in April and May. On the way back from the base camp to Gorakshep, we realized how lucky we had been, not only for the perfect weather, but also because we were almost completely alone. As we were returning to the tea house, we saw crowds of people heading to the base camp. Leaving early in the morning has been the best decision. After a difficult night where we felt sick from the altitude, it was finally time to go back at 3,900 meters. I instantly felt a lot better while descending in elevation. During the hike, we met a famous Nepalese mountaineer who climbed the Everest 30 times. I followed the porter Patra, who was speeding to the tea house, while Joel and Tempa stayed behind because of Joel's knee pain. While descending the valley, I saw my favorite mountain for the last time, the Amadablam, which served as backdrop along the path. To make the trail back to Lukla a bit different, we decided to stop in a village where no one usually goes.
Namaste.
It's an extra 5 kilometers hike from Pangboche's monastery. We could see it was not very popular, we met only a few trekkers and the farming village had only 2 tea houses. The last 2 days of the EBC trek were probably the most challenging. After rewarding us with a delicious yak cheese pizza in Namche Bazaar, I started to feel extremely sick and our bodies gave up after 12 days of hiking. Joel developed the so-called Kumbu cough, which is very common for trekkers to get during the EBC trek. I had a very high fever, nonetheless I had to hike for 12 kilometers back to Phakding, which I barely remember.
Vitto. Thank you.
Luckily, I was able to rest and recover in my favorite tea house. The last day in Lukla was very emotional. That's where this crazy adventure began, and all the beautiful memories started to come back.
Hello, Joey.
Hello.
Are you excited? Namaste. Namaste.
I was very proud of this experience, but at the same time I was happy to hide my trekking shoes for a while. I am grateful for the breathtaking views of the Himalayas I saw along the way and for having experienced the beautiful Sherpa culture. All of this wouldn't have been possible without our amazing guide Tempa and our porter Patra, who made our journey extremely easy and memorable.